Good afternoon, this is Mr. Morales, and I'll be explaining to you guys today how to solve systems of equations using elimination. Now, according to your notes here, you have pretty much a 5-step process you're going to use, and you can read the steps for yourself. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of explain in my own words what is happening. So when you have a system of equations, you know you have more than one equation you're dealing with. You want to find out where these two lines, in this case, intersect at. And there are different ways to do it. We did graphing, we did substitution. The final method we're going to learn is elimination. And the idea for elimination is that you want to combine, either through addition or subtraction, your two equations so that either one of your x's, either that both of your x's or both of your y's end up disappearing. So for example, in number 1, our directions are solve each system of equations below by elimination, then identify the solution. So for number 1, we have x plus 7y equals 17 and x minus y equals negative 7. So ideally, if I combined or added both equations, I would get an x plus another x, which would be 2 x's. Now, I have the same amount of x's in both equations, but if I combine them, I'll have more x's. Ideally, what I would like to do is get rid of the x's by subtracting them. And there is one way I can do that. What I can do is I can take, let's say, our second equation and multiply the whole thing times negative 1. So my first equation didn't change. It is still x plus 7y equals 17. My second equation, when I multiplied everything times negative 1, I get a negative x. And then I get a negative 1 times a negative 1y gives me a positive y. And then negative 1 times negative 7 gives me a positive 7. Now I can go ahead and just add these two equations straight up and down. Positive x minus x gives me 0 x's, so these cancel out. 7y plus y on the bottom gives me 8 y's. Equal sign falls down. 17 plus 7 gives me 24. Now I can get y by itself by dividing both sides by 8. And I get my first answer. Y is equal to 24 divided by 8, which is 3. But I need to get my x value now. Well, I can go back and pick any one of my equations. And I'll go ahead and pick the first one that I had. I'll pick actually the one I had on the bottom. Originally, it was x minus y equals negative 7. I'm going to go ahead and plug in this 3 for y. And I get x minus 3 equals negative 7. I'll add 3 to both sides, and then I get x equals, because this cancels out, negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. So my solution is x is negative 4 and y is 3. So at those points should be where these two graphs would cross, and I can go ahead and graph those and check them. For number 2, I can look and I see that my x's I have different amounts, but my y's are actually looking pretty perfect. I have positive 2 y's, which would cancel out perfectly with these minus 2 y's. So I'm going to go ahead and just straight up add the top equation to the bottom equation. So 3x's plus 5x's gives me 8x's. Positive 2 y's plus negative 2 y's gives me 0 y's, so they cancel out. Equal sign. 22 plus 42 equals 64. Now I'll divide both sides by 8 to figure out what x is. I get 1x, because 8 divided by 8 is 1. 64 divided by 8 is 8. So there's my x value. But now I need my y value. So I'll go ahead and use the first equation. 3 times my x value, which is 8, plus 2y equals 22. And it is your choice whichever equation you want to use to figure out your y. I just like the stuff with addition because it seems to be a lot easier. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 2y equals 22. I'll go ahead and subtract 24 from both sides to get the 2y by itself. When I do that, this cancels out, this falls down. I have 2y equals 22 minus 24, which is negative 2. I will now divide both sides by 2 to get y all by itself. And I get y equals negative 1. So my solution is, when x is 8, y is negative 1. Moving on to the next example. Number 3. Here I have 4 x's and positive 1x on the bottom, and negative 9y's and positive 5y's on the bottom. So there's nothing really in common right now. So I'm going to focus on trying to get rid of my x's. I have 4 x's on top. In order to get rid of x's on the bottom, I would need negative 4 x's on the bottom. Whoops, I didn't mean to move that. So I'll go ahead and multiply this whole second equation times a negative 4. So when I do that, I get negative 4 times x, which is negative 4x, negative 4 times positive 5y, which is negative 20y, and then negative 4 times positive 4, which is negative 16. On the top, this equation was unaffected, so I just bring it right over. And now I can go ahead and combine these two through addition. I'm going to add the top equation to the bottom equation. So 4x's plus negative 4x's cancels out. Negative 9y's plus negative 20y's is negative 29y's, equal sign. Negative 42 plus negative 16 more gives me negative 58. Oops, I didn't mean to make that stray mark over here. Get rid of that. All right. Now I go ahead and divide both sides by negative 29. And then I get 1y equals positive 2. So there's my y answer, but now I need my x answer. I'll go ahead and take the second equation that I had before I changed it, x plus 5y equals 4, and I'll plug in the y value that I got. So x plus 5 times 2 equals 4. I get x plus 10 equals 4. So I'll subtract 10 from both sides. The x falls down, which is what I want. This cancels out. And I'm left with 4 minus 10, which is negative 6. So my solution is when x is negative 6, my y value is 2. At negative 6, 2, these two lines will cross. Moving on to number 4. I see that my x's don't have anything in common with 7 and 2, but I do know that 6 and 3 are related. They have common factors. So what I'm going to do is I want to turn this minus 3y into a positive 6y, so it'll cancel out with that minus 6 up there. So what I'm going to do is take this whole second equation and multiply everything by negative 2. So when I do that, I get negative 2 times 2x, which is negative 4x. Negative 2 times negative 3y is a positive 6y. And then I get negative 2 times negative 13, which is a positive 26. The first equation remains untouched, so it just comes right on over. 7x minus 6y equals negative 53. And now I have things that can be eliminated. I can now add my 7x's plus negative 4x's, which leaves me with 3x's. But now in this situation, my y's will cancel out. Negative 6y's plus positive 6y's means you have no y's left over. Negative 53 plus positive 26 leaves you with negative 27. I'll divide both sides by 3, and I get 1x equals negative 9. There's my x answer. I need my y answer now. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my second equation before I changed it. 2x minus 3y equals negative 13. And I will substitute the x value that I got right here into the x that I have over here in this equation. So 2 times negative 9 minus 3y equals negative 13. 2 times negative 9 is negative 18 minus 3y equals negative 13. I'm going to go ahead now and add 18 to both sides. When I do that, it cancels out on the left. I have a negative 3y left over. Negative 13 plus positive 18 is going to be 5. Then I'll divide by negative 3. Yes, you will get a fraction answer, and that is allowed. I get negative 5 over 3, or negative 5/3. So my solution is, when x is negative 9, I'll have a y value of negative 5/3. The negative sign goes in front of the fraction. It doesn't mean that the 5 is negative or the 3 is negative. It means that the whole fraction is negative. So make sure you write it like that. Let's go on to the next two examples now. Number 5. I'm looking for any common factors between the x's and the y's. And it looks like the best thing to do would be to get rid of the x's by making one of them a group of positive 10x's and another one a group of negative 10x's. You have to know your times tables in order to get the manipulation just right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these 5x's up here into positive 10x's by multiplying the whole first line times positive 2. So when I do that, I get 2 times 5x, which is positive 10x, that's what I wanted, 2 times 3y, which is positive 6y, and then I get 2 times negative 7, which is negative 14. Now, in order to get rid of my x's on the bottom, I'm going to multiply this whole entire line by negative 5. When I do that, negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x's, which is what I want, so they'll cancel out. Negative 5 times positive 7y is negative 35y's. And then negative 5 times positive 3 is negative 15. So now I can add the whole top equation to the bottom one. 10x's plus negative 10x's cancel out to 0x's. 6y's plus negative 35y's equals negative 29y's. Negative 14 plus a negative 15 gets more negative and it equals negative 29. Oops, I need to make this straight mark and move the screen over here. Now I divide both sides by negative 29. Negative 29 goes to negative 29 one y time. Negative 29 divided by negative 29 is a positive 1. So there's my y answer, but now I need my x answer. I'll once again use my second equation. 2x plus 7, instead of saying y, I'll say 1, because I already know what y is now, equals 3. 2x plus 7 times 1 is 7, equals 3. I'll go ahead and subtract 7 from both sides. Actually, I think I feel like I did something wrong here, but I guess it's okay. So 2x, oops, my bad. That's what I did. Got ahead of myself there. So let me go ahead and subtract 7 from both sides. That's what I wanted to do next. And then I get 2x equals 3 minus 7, which is negative 4, because these canceled out. Divide by 2, and I get x equals negative 4 divided by positive 2 is a negative 2. So my solution is when x is negative 2, y is positive 1. Next, going on now, number 6. Here I have 3 4's for x's and negative 9, negative 12's for y. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get rid of my y's in this case. So what I'm going to do is multiply everything on top by positive 4. When I do that, I get 4 times 3x, which is 12x, 4 times negative 9, which is negative 36y, equals 9 times 4, which is positive 36. I did that, and you'll see why in just a moment. Now to get rid of these bottom y's, I'm going to multiply everything by negative 3. Negative 3 times 4x is negative 12x. Negative 3 times negative 12 is positive 36y. Negative 3 times positive 36 equals negative 108. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the top equation to the bottom equation. So I have a couple of things happening in this case. 12x's plus negative 12x's is 0x's. Negative 36 plus positive 36 is 0y's. Whoops, let me do that. Is 0y's. So I have no x's or no y's, or basically I have nothing over here on the left side. 36 plus negative 108 is negative 72. Ask yourself, is having nothing or 0 equal to having negative 72? They're not. So in this case, if you get an answer on the left side that does not equal the answer on the right side or makes no sense like we do in this case, then what you have is no solution. You have lines that never intersect, they're parallel. Now let's finish up the last of this first half of the examples. We'll work on number 7 and 8, which are special cases, kind of. So, looking at my x's, 5. Now look at the order, first of all, is different for both of these. X's and y's are no longer perfectly lined up for us like we like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my second equation so that it has the x first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2x from both sides. And then I get a negative 2x because I want x's first, with that 7y above it equal to 8. So now I'll rewrite my problem. The top equation hasn't changed yet. 5x minus 6y equals 3. On the bottom, I just rewrote it as negative 2x plus 7y equals 8. Because in our instructions it says your x's and y's all have to be lined up. So now let me look at my x's and y's. 5 and 2 aren't really related, 6 and 7 aren't really related, but I can make them related by multiplying them by various numbers. 5 and 2 would be the easiest. They both have 10, and I can get them too. So I'm going to turn the 5x into 10x's by multiplying it by positive 2. I'm going to take the negative 2x's and turn them into negative 10x's by multiplying that whole thing by positive 5. So I'm running out of room, I'm going to do everything down here. 5x times 2 is 10x. Negative 6y times 2 is negative 12y. 3 times 2 is 6. Now for my bottom equation, negative 2x times 5 is negative 10x. 7y times positive 5 is positive 35y. And 8 times 5 is positive 40. I can now add these two equations. 10x's plus negative 10x's cancels out my x's, because that's the whole point, is to get rid of either x's or y's. Negative 12x's plus positive 12y's plus positive 35y's is 23y's. 6 plus positive 40 is 46. I'll divide everything by 23 to get the y by itself. And I end up with y equals 2. There's my, excuse me, sorry, let me just sneeze. There's my y answer. Now I need to get my x answer. And to do that, I'll go ahead and use the first equation. 5x minus 6 times whatever y is, we got y is equal to 2, equals 3. So 5x minus 12, because 6 times 2 is 12, equals 3. I'll add 12 to both sides. And I get 5x equals 15. Divide everything by 5, and I get x equals 3. So my solution is when x equals 3, y equals 2. And now number 8, the last one for today. I'm going to go ahead and manipulate. I'll keep my first equation because it's already, well actually I can rewrite it. So let's go ahead and get the x's and y's together. For the first equation, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 18 and add 8y, going that way and that way. So I end up with 10x plus 8y equals negative 18. So I subtracted 18 up here, and I added 8y right there to move things around. In my second equation, I'll go ahead and I'll move things around by, let's see, I'll subtract 5y and then subtract the 4 to bring it over here. So what I'm going to get is 9x minus 5y equals negative 4. Now I've got to find out which numbers are compatible. And the 8 and the 5 can both turn into 40s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and multiply the top equation, everything up here, by positive 5, and the bottom one, everything down here, by positive 8. The effect is what follows. 5 times 10x is going to be 50x. 5 times 8y is positive 40y. 5 times negative 18 is negative 90. On the bottom, 9x times 8 is 72x. 8 times negative 5y is negative 40y. And then 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. I can now combine these equations to eliminate the y's. 50x's plus 72x's is 122x's. 40y's plus minus 40y's cancels out. Negative 90 plus a negative 32 is negative 122. Divide everything by 122. Negative 122 divided by positive 122 is a negative 1. There's my x answer. Now to get my y answer, I'll go ahead and just go back to my first equation. It said 10 times whatever x is, which is -1, plus 18 equals negative, oops, go back and fix that, equals negative 8y. 10 times -1 is -10, plus 18 equals negative 8y. Negative 10 plus 18 is 8 equals negative 8y. Divide by negative 8, and you end up with -1 equals y. So your solution for this one ends up being when x is -1, y is also -1. A lot of work for that one. So those are your first 8 examples. We'll deal with the applications examples later, but go ahead and write this down and then feel free to ask for clarification on any of the steps that you see here. Good luck on your assignment tomorrow. Thank you guys.